Right, we're here at the CEO and Allies COP26 Toxic Tour Net Zero. We're probably not allowed to do this. We're not allowed to do actions inside. We're not allowed to call out countries or companies, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So hopefully we're not going to get shut down, but do for us for the next half an hour to hear from amazing frontline communities exposing the net zero and all the companies and countries involved. So folks, we're going to start the net zero tour. I'm just going to scooch over here. Okay, welcome to the net zero tour, the toxic tour focus on net zero. You might wonder why we're at the French Pavilion, because 6 years ago at COP21 we signed the Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement that not even the French government is sticking to, as was found by a French court. But the key thing that came out of the Paris Agreement was the pledge for net zero by 2050. That pledge has been taken up by governments and corporations alike. Government has made this COP26, the net zero COP. And we've seen so many different companies, big as their main sort of climate pledge, net zero by 2050. But we had a look at what some of these pledges were, and what we saw is these net zero pledges were not about cutting emissions at source. They were not about, I'm going to take this off, they were not about moving away from fossil fuels or stopping deforestation. They were about delaying action, using techno fixes, want to tackle climate change. So what we're about to do, we're going to go on a tour around some of the countries and the companies that are behind this agenda that have been stopping real progress talks, stopping us really reaching 1.5 and stopping real people's solutions. Net zero is in fact a massive greenwashing of dirty practices and is blocking real solutions. So with no further ado, let's head onwards. If you'd please like to follow me this way, we're going to head to our first stop around the sort of around the UN pavilions. This way.
We're following a toxic tour we've just found. Sky News Climate Cast on the front page. Find out.
So we're about to head to the US, which is one of the biggest polluters. But this is the UN pavilions, where you've got loads of countries and companies have all decided to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds and dollars and euros on promoting themselves. So this is where a lot of the corporate greenwashing takes place, often in the very stands set up by governments. So governments here are hosting some of the biggest polluting gas companies and oil companies to give them the opportunity to greenwash their image and pretend they're part of the climate solution. So if you do find yourself in the blue zone here inside the UN climate talks, come and check it out. You can see here all these sort of big corporate logos everywhere. This is a feature of the entire space. So yeah, it's I don't know. There is some good news as well. So in the previous 2 years, 2 years ago, we did lots of actions against lots of the big polluters who were in these pavilions. And this year, they're not coming. They're not coming because they're too scared of being here. So they've decided to not turn up, and lots of the events with big oil and gas companies now are actually online because they're too scared to have their events disrupted and to be the truth be told, have communities being affected by their practices, such as from the Niger Delta who came and disrupted Shell's events. So they're staying away. But here we are outside. So let's come this way so we don't disrupt their event. So we are looking for two US speakers. Come with me, we're looking for Aisha Sadiq from Polluters Out. Let's try and find her. Aisha. Ready? Okay. So here we have someone who's been on the front lines of fighting big polluters, Aisha Sadiq. Is it Sadiq? Perfect. From Polluters Out. Aisha, introduce yourself and tell us what's all this about US net zero and it's getting out of its climate commitments.
Hi, my name is Aisha Siddiqa. I live in New York City, in Coney Island, and in 2012 my entire island was flooded by the climate crisis, specifically Hurricane Sandy. So net zero is a very interesting factoid to me because it's like when you don't study all semester for a test and then you pull an all-nighter expecting to get 100. 2050 is not going to occur. It's kind of like a pipe dream with the trajectory that we're going. President Biden has cut millions of dollars off of the Build Back Better plan. Today he is here announcing that we are going to reduce methane emissions by 30%. Meanwhile, he has come with an entourage of around 80 vehicles and private jets. So the hypocrisy is mind-boggling, the elitism is mind-boggling, and building back better is not occurring right now to the extent that we need it to.
Brilliant. Thank you, Aisha. So you can hear from those who are fighting the US government in the US who have come here to the UN climate talks to also call out the net zero bullshit from big polluters and the governments that are supporting them.
One other point I would like to make is the youngest amongst us, between 17 to 20 years old, have taken a hunger strike at the White House. They've been hunger striking for the past 8 days to the point that most of them can no longer walk. Come to Joe Manchin, come to Biden, come to Pelosi, all requesting that money be put back into the Build Back Better plan and have been completely ignored. These are Sunrise students. So in the United States, we have people almost on the verge of passing out on death, demanding a Build Back Better plan, while our president is here in the UK talking about how much we're doing for climate, while his citizens are in fact and indeed suffering.
Brilliant. So we're now going to move on to our next stop. Please come with us if you like. We're heading this way, heading towards some business pavilions. So this is where... Okay, follow us. We have security. Can you see security? They seem to be acting pretty nicely. That's pretty good. No one's being chopped out yet. Can you see them? There they are. Okay, we've still got our badges. Just keep it going. So we're now heading to the We Mean Business Pavilion, which is the place where, a lot of businesses who are saying we're serious about 1.5 degree climate change. This is where they all hang out, and they're putting on a whole load of events to say how great they are. But we're actually going to hear from some speakers who can reveal the truth. So come with me. And what's quite amazing, you can see, just look at it already, how much money they've put into this place. You can tell this is a pavilion. I mean, do these companies have any right to be here? Should the same companies really be at the table trying to solve it? If they're trying to burn down that table, they shouldn't get a seat at it. So let's keep going and cut through. Here we can see, here's another wall of logos. You can see some great companies, such as Google. Right, come through this way. Okay. So, business is seen as a key player in COP26, both by governments and by business itself. And a lot of these places, it's all about how can business deliver net zero. And this is part of a bigger agenda to move action away from governments who are supposed to be regulating these industries to the industries themselves. The industries who say, don't worry, we'll do it, don't regulate us, we'll set up a voluntary scheme. And how those have worked over the years, they don't work. But they keep being pushed. So what we're seeing is it's not just countries, but also businesses pushing 1.5. And one of the sponsors of COP26 is the parent company of Scottish Power, a big company here in Scotland who's sponsoring. And it's here at the COP to try and claim that it's a climate hero. What we realise is net zero plans are in fact filled with gas, filled with climate disasters, and even the renewable energy it's trying to build comes with huge human rights and environmental costs. So we've got with us an incredible speaker all the way from Mexico. I'm going to let you introduce yourself,
and we're going to do simultaneous translation.
Yo
soy Miriam, soy integrante de Futuros Indígenas del país mexicano. Nosotras tenemos problemas con Iberdrola y una serie de empresas españolas como Elecnor, Abengoa, Enagas, que están invadiendo nuestro territorio.
Okay, Miriam from Futuros Indígenas. They're fighting here against many European companies, doing Iberdrola, Bengoa, Enagas, and Saint-Gobain against gas.
Estas empresas se presentan en la COP26 como las salvadoras de nuestros territorios, pero decimos que no nos están salvando, que nos están matando.
So these companies are presenting themselves as the saviors of the climate here in COP26, but they're here to say that these companies are not saving us, they're killing us.
Sus soluciones son nuestros problemas. Lo que ellas están construyendo en nuestros países está matando la vida en nuestros territorios, está matando las aves, la tierra, la vida, están asesinando a defensores y defensoras del territorio como Samir Flores Soberanes.
So what they're presenting as solutions are problems. They're the things that are killing us, destroying our forests, destroying our lands, destroying our communities and our way of life.
Y ante eso decimos, nosotras y nosotros somos el futuro, defendemos la vida. En nuestros territorios está la vida, en nuestros territorios está la sabiduría ancestral. A todas y todos quienes nos mataron y nos han matado durante 500 años, hoy decimos, aquí estamos cuidando de la vida.
I'm here to say that we are the ones who are going to save it. So they're also killing environmental defenders, and they're the ones who are going to save the territories, who are going to save the climate. And this comes from their ancestors. They've been killing them for 500 years through colonialism, but now they're here to stand up and defend it.
Exigimos a los gobiernos y a las empresas que nos dejen ser quienes decidimos sobre nuestro territorio, autodeterminar nuestras comunidades, cuidar el planeta, cuidar nuestra tierra desde nuestros saberes ancestrales, como lo hemos hecho desde que existimos.
So they're here to tell these companies that they want to be able to govern their own territories, decide their own futures, and be able to have a say over how things proceed, and looking after the land in the way that's been done for centuries by their ancestors and the knowledge, the ancient knowledge and ancestral indigenous knowledge that they built up.
Por último, le decimos a todos los medios de comunicación que seguiremos tomando acciones en nuestros territorios, en nuestros lugares de origen, porque decimos y seguimos convencidos de eso, de que nosotras y nosotros somos la cura de la tierra, las mujeres defensoras del territorio, los hombres, las niñas, los niños, nahuas, purépechas, del Istmo, de Tehuantepec, de Morelos, del estado de Puebla, que estamos luchando por la vida.
So, going to make clear across all means of communications that we're going to continue taking actions in our territories, in our homes, and we're the ones who are defending our lands, who are the environmental defenders, taking care the communities and the territories and the struggles that are there fighting back and making sure they're the ones fighting for the future.
Exigimos justicia climática, exigimos justicia para Samir Flores Soberanes, asesinado por el proyecto integral Morelos, impulsado por Elecnor, Abengoa, Enagas. Exigimos justicia para todos los perseguidos en Oaxaca, el Istmo, en toda la zona de México y todas las empresas españolas, francesas, alemanas que están a favor de la minería y que están impulsando el extractivismo en nuestros territorios. Exigimos justicia para todas y todos quienes hemos estado resistiendo en estos pueblos.
We're going to try, but we're demanding justice, we're demanding climate justice in our territories, and justice for those who have been killed, like Samir Flores, fighting gas pipelines by European companies like Enagas, Iberdrola, Bengoa, Saint-Gobain, also in Oaxaca, for justice for those fighting there, and all the companies, European companies, who are involved in extractivism and mining in the territories. We will keep fighting for justice.
Nosotras y nosotros, los guardianes del territorio, cobijamos y curamos y cuidamos más del 80% de la biodiversidad del planeta que aún existe. Defendamos todas y todos el territorio.
So we are the ones who are working and caring and looking after up to 80% of nature on this planet, the biodiversity on this planet, and we're the ones who will keep doing so. Okay.
If you want to know why we're in the climate crisis, come to the Conference of Parties. Capitalism is running rampant here. Racism is running rampant here. White supremacy is running rampant here. Everything that is in these buildings, because the same institutions have been allowed to create this event. So the climate crisis, it's enabling it. Every single room in this building, every single advertisement that you see for Iberdrola, Endesa, Shell, Exxon, they're refusing to call out the people who have caused the end of humanity. It is absolute insanity over here for anybody who's watching from home.
Brilliant. So, muchísimas gracias. And please follow Futura Indígena on all the platforms. Spread their message. Follow Miriam, yeah. And we're going next to the EU. That's way, right, onwards. Gracias, muchísimas gracias. Okay, so we're now going to the EU, who's always presented itself as a climate leader. We've shown in Brussels, where CEO is based, that the EU is full of smoke and mirrors. Here's this big side event, so maybe we can just be, it's even playing great music. Yeah, this way. We've got some local campaigners and activists. Is this, yeah, right here? Okay. So
maybe more here because of the sound.
Does it work? Maybe we just do this?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do this. Make sure we've got the good visuals. Thank you very much. Here. So the EU has always presented itself as the good guy in these talks. You know, we're the good ones, we're the leaders, we're the ones we're not as bad as Donald Trump. Of course, the US is a laggard, the EU is a champion, no? That's what we always hear. Unfortunately, that's not what happens. Behind the closed doors, in the corridors, in these closed negotiating rooms, that is definitely not what happens. And when it comes to net zero, the EU was a first mover on net zero. We're going to hear more about, which means that in Brussels, net zero is not even questioned. Net zero is beyond questioning. Everyone just assumes net zero by 2050 is just what's happened. And to hear more about it, we're going to pass over to Bo from Youth for Climate Action in Belgium.
Hi, so I'm Bo Adams from Youth for Climate Belgium. And I'm here to talk about why the EU should step away from the net zero. Now, don't be fooled by that sentence, because it doesn't mean what you think it means. The EU, as well as Belgium, is representing themselves as world leaders. The EU has signed up for the net zero by 2050. And now it is championing in the European Green Deal as a way of decarbonizing our economy and creating growth and prosperity. But I know, as well as you know, that this is just business as usual. We have heard this many times before. We hear cliché after cliché in empty speeches of politicians of our world. Speech after speech, we hear talking about how great they are doing, how great the EU is doing, while my country hasn't even decided on what to do at COP. We came here as a decide on what to do and how to help here at COP. The EU is also relying heavily on fossil gas. We are still extracting fossil gas and funding gas pipelines, as in Belgium. There are going to be I think 1 or 2 new gas centrals in Belgium. They are not yet made, but they are coming, and this is not right. And so, what should we do? The EU should step away from the net zero. We should stop hiding behind net zero. We should stop lying to the people and actually go to real zero. The EU is also funding hydrogen and carbon extraction and storage. But this is just a solution, hiding behind the problem. We need to step away from fossil fuels once and for all. That is my question for my leaders of Belgium at this COP. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Bo. Brilliant to hear. Please do follow us as we continue. And if you would like to hear what else the EU has been doing, much is going to happen this week. Many, many more announcements. The EU is behind the private finance agenda, the net zero initiatives, so expect many more. And here in the EU's pavilion, well, it's just over there, expect gas companies and some of the biggest polluters to be using the EU space to host events here at COP26 to push their net zero agenda. As we heard from Bo, net zero full of gas, full of hydrogen, full of techno fixes. So let's continue. And we're going to pop in now to the UNFCCC. Why not? This way. So, next up we have the UNFCCC. We're going to go check out the organisation behind these whole talks. They often present themselves as very neutral, left down here, as very neutral. But in fact, they've been at the core of net zero. We're going to hear from a few different going on. We're also going to hear about the serious impact on the ground. Okay, so let's just look how big this is, the UNFCCC pavilion. Maybe we just get the a nice big logo behind us. Should we get the logo? Yeah. Should we get the logo? Let's go get the logo. We're going to get the logo because the logo is so the EU. Excuse me. Okay, let's do this and this. And this. Does that work? So the EU has not been a neutral side. The EU. We've moved on from the EU. We are now outside the UNFCCC. So the UNFCCC, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, created in 1992 by world government to tackle climate change. 1992. I repeat, 1992. And we've not tackled climate change, that's clear. But I want to flag, since COP21 in Paris, and there's been a huge influence in pushing that agenda. It's been anything but neutral. It's pushed net zero, it's pushed carbon markets and offsets. So we're here to hear about a few of these schemes. There's going to touch on 2 in particular. So first up, I'm going to introduce Scott Tully from Glasgow Calls Polluters to hear about the UNFCCC endorsed Race to Zero. Scott?
Program, as long as you're cooking the books. Another company, we have Drax, who are the UK's biggest carbon emitter and the world's largest tree burner. So how do they get to be part of this programme? Again, through creative accounting methods. Just don't count the carbon from the trees you burn. Call it biofuels. And it's all fine. It's an absolute joke. But it's an absolute joke that's been given the seal of approval by the UK government, who are taking a lead on this programme, and the UNFCCC, who are giving this the institutional approval for business as usual, which is causing further climate breakdown. That's all on the Race to Zero programme. I could go on for so much longer because the list is endless, but that's all I'll say for just now.
Brilliant. Can I ask you to swap for my net zero umbrella? So I don't know if you've worked out yet. This is an umbrella you could say covered in zeros or noughts and a net. And so this is our net zero umbrella. I'm going to ask you just to hold this. I'm going to take these two as I'm going to give a quick overview of one of the key net zero initiatives that's been really spoken about today inside the talks. So I don't know if anyone heard Rishi Sunak earlier, the UK's treasurer, the Chancellor, the head of the Treasury, one of the most powerful men in the UK, in the UK's government, who's been really, how can I put it, reticent. He's not wanted to fund climate action. He's been holding back, saying it's too expensive. So what was announced today was a huge initiative by the Glasgow Finance Alliance for net zero. This is what Rishi Sunak was talking about a lot. To give you a lowdown of what it is, it was set up by the ex-Bank of England governor, Mark Carney, who also used to work for Goldman Sachs, and he's currently the UN's Special Envoy on Climate Action and Finance, and Boris Johnson's finance advisor on COP26. He's been the one leading the private finance agenda at COP26 and linking private finance to net zero. The question is how to reform the private finance sector to meet the challenge of net zero. And at the core of this, how to reform the finance sector, how to deliver net zero, is the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero. So it was also set up with the help of the COP26 Private Finance Hub. So this COP26 Private Finance Hub is actually in the UK Treasury. It has a staff of 25 people. So whilst Rishi Sunak doesn't want to spend money on real climate solutions, he's more than happy to put staff time into the Private Finance Hub, which is designed to basically bail out the private finance sector. And this finance alliance is an umbrella for all the other private finance initiatives. I don't know if you've heard, there's a insurers net zero alliance, there's a net zero alliance for banking, a net zero alliance for asset managers. There's multiple ones, in fact. You've got all of these net zero alliances, and now they've been brought together under the Glasgow Finance Alliance. And do you want to know who's at the core of it? Unfortunately, the core of it are the biggest private financiers, including BlackRock's Larry Fink. We've got Citigroup, HSBC, Bank of America, etc. And these big finance CEOs are supposed to be overseeing how the sector delivers net zero. However, all of the banks and asset managers and insurance firms mentioned, they're all massive fossil fuel financiers who are using net zero to carry on with business as usual. They've got no plans for U-turn, no plans for phase outs of their investments. So how can, the question is how they can now use this to appear green thanks to their involvement. Do we think fossil fuel financiers are really going to reform the private finance sector in a way that's good for the climate, in a way that's good for frontline communities already facing the impacts of climate change? They're not going to be the ones looking to transfer large amounts of public money to help countries facing the impacts now. No, they're looking to change the private finance sector and the net zero agenda into a profit-making opportunity. Mark Carney said climate change represents the biggest profit-making opportunity ever. So it's pretty clear. They're not going to help us reach 1.5. So we've already seen a big focus on voluntary carbon markets. Mark Carney is a big fan. Investments in experimental technology like carbon capture and storage or direct air capture, and as well as turning nature into an asset class. And the big worry about this big push that using net zero to bring in private finance, bring in the same banks causing the climate crisis to fund net zero, the big worry is this means there's not going to be public money, there's not going to be grants, there's not going to be climate debt paid. So whilst there's all this talk about private finance and the City of London, that means governments like the UK and others are going to be reducing their climate commitments and not paying their climate debt, which they've been owing. So this is another of the really scary private finance and net zero initiatives happening. And as CEO of the organisation I worked for, we brought out a report yesterday on this exact topic. And my colleague calls this COP26 is the biggest finance greenwash event in history. So this is literally greenwashing the financial sector, as well as putting them in charge of how we're going to deliver 1.5, which is a disaster. So now we're going to head to our final stop. We're going to head to the host of the talks. It'd be rude not to stop at the UK Pavilion, COP26 President. So please follow us this way. Okay, so we're heading off to the UK. The UK is the biggest bullshitter of them all. The UK is the one who's been pretending that it's serious, started these talks when they all began by setting out its own agenda for pulling out of coal, ending combustion engines, some climate cash and forest offsets. That was its own agenda. But its own agenda was there because it thinks these talks are going to fail. It's really clear that actually it needs its own agenda, because otherwise these talks are going to be a failure. So we're here at the UK Pavilion. We're here. And right. And the UK, I mean, can we see it on the wall anywhere? Finance, 9:30, net zero and the SME climate opportunity. Net zero is basically all over this place. So let's be really clear. The UK government has been at the heart of pushing net zero and making this a net zero COP. But what can we say about the UK's own net zero policies? What does that mean in reality? So to tell us more about it, we have the incredible Sarah MacArthur from the UK Youth Climate Coalition. Grab those.
Got it?
Yeah.
Oh. Hi everyone, my name is Sarah and I am from the UK Youth Climate Coalition. We're here at the UK Government's Pavilion, where they're supposed to be showcasing all of their ambitious climate action. They have set targets to reach net zero by 2050, and with this has come a whole host of dialogue about how we must act boldly now, and we must all make difficult choices. But these net zero targets are not a recipe for transformational change. They will not keep temperature rises to 1.5 degrees. They are based on being able to cancel out emissions rather than eliminating them, and they give big polluters a licence to carry on business as usual, extracting and burning fossil fuels to the devastation of communities all around the world. A perfect example here is of the planned Campbell oil field off of the coast of Shetland. It holds 800 million barrels of oil, which doesn't exactly scream urgency. How can the UK government expect to lead by example if they are drilling for oil at every chance they get? At this COP, we want to see real plans put forward to bring emissions and fossil fuels down to real zero. This is the only way that the UK government and the global north can show that they are serious on climate action. We need action that is backed up by the urgency that the climate crisis demands. Yesterday, Boris Johnson had the audacity to say that we are going to play to extra time on the climate crisis. We've had extra time. We've had years of extra time. We need the UK government to step up to the job now. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Sarah MacArthur. So the UK government is not just letting down communities in the UK, not just drilling for more oil and gas in the UK, but its companies in the UK who are also promoting net zero are having huge impacts on communities around the world. So now I have the pleasure of introducing Aderonke Iga from Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa to hear what's going on in Nigeria. If you hold these just underneath my fingers. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Pascal. Thank you everyone who is here. I think it feels really strange and terrible at the same time to be here at the pavilion of the host of one of the most exclusive COPs ever. Number one, I'm going to talk about how there's inequity even in the attendance of COP this year. My community where I come from, I'm from a country or a continent, if you may, in the global south, and that's one of the places that are most impacted by climate change, global warming, in spite of the fact that we are the least contributors to this crisis. But at the same time, we are the most excluded right now from this particular COP So for the rest of us who are here, I think it would be grave injustice if we are not able to speak for the rest of them who are at home, who are not able to even be here, who are also at the front line. Now, it's terrible what is happening today. Today is the finance day, woo, right? But then, no, it's a day of hypocrisy. It's a day of saying, oh yes, we are championing net zero. And we all know that net zero is a scam. It's not a solution, it's a scam. And instead, we have been advancing real solutions. We have been saying net zero is just about telling polluters that, oh yes, you can keep polluting. And then it's tokenism, and that's what we are not going to stand for. And like my colleagues have been saying, you can't be the cause of a problem, the champion of a problem, and then being the one at the same time pretending to be solving the problem. That would not be acceptable, because that is what we are seeing right now at this COP. So we are saying no to that. The frontline communities in Africa, for instance, you need to see the damage being done every day. Right now we are talking about the first famine, climate-induced famine in Madagascar happening, first ever in the world. This is as a result of climate change, not even war or anything. It's currently happening in Madagascar, in Nigeria, go all over Africa. You see this happening. And then today, these men are gathered, patting themselves on the back and saying, woo, we are doing it. We mean global north governments are in bed with the polluters, with these big polluters, the corporations, and then talking about financing. These finances, in fact, is just lip service. They are not trackable. The plans are not actionable. Who is going to hold them accountable? So you can't be the problem and then be the judge in the same cause and trying to pretend to solve the problem. So it's important for the most impacted continent, countries, to be at the forefront, determining how this goes. So what we are saying yes to right now is real solutions. We are talking about agroecology. We are talking about just transition for communities at the front line. We don't want no geoengineering. We don't want all those accounting tricks that are being paraded as solutions in our faces. It's grave injustice and is a slap in our faces. And that's what we are saying no to. So as much as voices are being excluded at this particular COP, which is a shame, we have found a way to say, look, you can't exclude us. We will find a way, because we are citizens of the earth and we are being impacted in a really huge way. So we have found this way, alternative way, to put our voice forward to say this is a sham. And every African government, every government of the global south should say no to net zero, because it's a scam. 6.2, 6.4, it's all a scam. Open your eyes, African government. You can't keep going and going. Look at 6.8, it's a consideration. There are things that we should be talking about. So we need to put our voices together, and Corporate Accountability, Public Participation Africa, and all our friends and allies, like we have been doing. We are rallying the communities at the front line, especially African communities in the global south, to say, look, let's come together, look at what works for us, and then push this agenda, and also demand our government to take action and not be deceived by the language, by the bogus language and the hypocrisy of the global north government. So that's my short message for today. I hope it was short enough. Then we keep going.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So we're hearing here both from the impacts in the UK as well as the impacts internationally. The net zero is a scam. Net zero allows us to carry on with fossil fuels, push carbon markets that privatize our forests, that lead to huge and grave impacts on our communities. But it's important to say that net zero isn't just a UK catchphrase. It's playing out in the negotiating rooms. As we have Madaronke, it's playing out in Article 6 in the negotiations for carbon markets. We're seeing it strong, not just for pushing for more carbon markets, but the push for the technologies that underpin net zero, such as carbon capture and storage and hydrogen. And we're seeing how, rather than public climate finance, governments are expected to look to the markets for finance, which plays perfectly into the hands of Mark Carney and Rishi Sunak as they try and privatise our climate, sell it off for the profits of the big banks. And we also heard it from the Leaders Summit, with a big focus on forests as carbon sinks and creating new markets. But if we want to keep temperatures below 1.5 degrees, then we need to reject net zero and the false solutions it brings with it. More than 700 organizations signed an open letter calling for real solutions and real zero at these talks. You can see a copy of it we have here. We're not allowed to hand it out, but we can leave it somewhere and you can pick it up. And we're also, the countries we visited here, it was not by chance. The EU, the UK and the US are all behind the net zero push, and we've collected a petition along with corporate accountability for thousands of individuals who have signed the petition calling on these governments to stop shilling for big polluters, stop promoting the net zero agenda and focus on real solutions. So after this, we're going to go and hand out this petition. I don't know if there's anyone from the UK delegation here. I'm looking to you, sir. Are you from the UK delegation? No? Is there anyone from the UK delegation? No? Everyone, surprisingly, is no longer from the UK delegation. Oh, we have someone from the UK delegation. Perfectly. Hi there, Jamie. Would you like to come and join us? We have a petition that we'd like to hand over. But maybe we can arrange. Would you like to? We can't. Okay. So this is just. Oh my goodness! Zero paper exhibition stand, zero carbon, but loads of fossil fuels. Okay. So they've used biodiesel, but the UK is still promoting more oil and gas expansion in the North Sea, as well as privatising forests around the world. But I guess every little counts, huh? Yeah. But this is from thousands of people who are calling on the UK to reject net zero and promote real solutions. And really pleased you can take it. We're also going to go and visit the EU and the US to hand these in, and we'd love to continue this conversation to how we can get the EU to promote real solutions. I am not on YouTube, no. But thank you. No. We're just doing a live stream, so this is from Corporate Europe Observatory. You can check out our website for the live stream and the Facebook. But that concludes our Net Zero Toxic Tour. I'd like to really thank all of our speakers who did a great job in bringing home the reality of net zero, what it means in their countries and in their communities, how it doesn't mean real solutions, it doesn't mean real zero, it doesn't mean real finance. Net zero is a big con. It's still a big con. And we also, if you want to know more about corporate net zero plans, ourselves with Corporate Accountability, Friends of the Earth International and the Global Forest Coalition produced a piece of research that is over here that you can see, which documents some of the sponsors, some of the Race to Zero members, big oil and gas companies, big tech, big finance, and their net zero plans and how they're full of holes. But yeah, thank you for joining, and we hope to see you all soon and keep following what's happening with net zero inside these talks. Thank you very much.